Have you been frustrated that your perennial seeds won't germinate in the spring? Or are you tired of buying expensive seeds or saving seeds from your garden just to see nothing sprout after weeks of waiting? Well, for years I struggled to figure out how to get my perennials to grow from seed. But once I learned this winter preparation method, I have had an abundance of perennial plants that I've grown from seed with just about 100% success. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps of a technique called cold stratification. And I think this will really help you level up your germination skills so that you never have to be playing that guessing game again with your perennial seeds. Hi, I'm Anne. As an artist, an educator, and a lifelong gardener, I've had to learn how to be creative on a budget. And on this channel, I help home gardeners like you find ways to be creative and resourceful with what you already have. And also, if you need help planning your garden or you have garden questions, I do have a link in the description so you can schedule a consultation with me. So, what is cold stratification and why do we need to do this for perennial seeds? Well, perennials are different than annuals, so you may be familiar with annual seeds from certain flowers or vegetables, perhaps, that actually are planted in the spring, either directly in your garden or in prepared pots or trays. And these annuals complete their life cycle in one season. So that means you can plant the seed out, and after a few weeks, it starts to grow and then flower and then produce its own fruit or seeds. Then its life cycle is done. Whereas perennials come back year after year, hence the name perennial, and often they produce seeds, if they're viable and not sterile, that will take more of a winter dormancy for them to actually wake up in the spring. This also is a survival mechanism so that the seed is protected from things like harsh weather or animals or other things that may degrade the seed. So they often have like a tough coating or a shell, which actually protects that seed embryo and also the nourishing components within the seed. Before I learned how to implement cold stratification, I had a difficult time growing perennials from seed. And often I had to buy plants, which gets to be expensive. And I felt like this was kind of an unsustainable thing for me, especially as somebody who's on a budget, just like you probably, I bet, and wanted to find ways where I could save money and also not waste seeds. I really wanted to save them and have those same plants that I could potentially grow in the next year in my garden. A nice aspect about using cold stratification too is that you're creating a controlled environment for your perennial seeds and you're kind of staying more organized with what you have harvested and what you plan on growing for the next year. So now is the perfect time to start your cold stratifying process. I'm in the Midwest and it's January, and so I'm going to need at least 1 to 3 months, depending on the kind of plant, the kind of seed that needs cold stratifying. And so now you should be getting everything together and making those plans for all of the seeds that you carefully harvested in the fall. And if you're not sure how much time your plants or your seeds need, there's an easy way to find that out. We have the internet. All you have to do is go online and look up your particular plant, and it should be able to tell you how much time it needs to stratify. Otherwise, if you're ordering from a catalog, often the catalogs will also have codes in there to tell you what the germination needs are of that seed. So the actual process of cold stratification is really easy. It's actually pretty affordable and the materials are accessible. So don't be intimidated by the name. It's something that if I can do it, I know you could do it too. So the list of materials that you're going to need for stratifying are pretty simple. The first thing you're going to need is a mixing bowl with a utensil so that you can mix your substrate. Obviously, I'm just using an ordinary bowl and an old wooden teaspoon. This works great. And this is for mixing the substrate with your seeds. So what do I mean by a substrate? Well, there's a couple different choices that I like to use for my process. One of them being you will use sand to mix with your seeds. This is kind of an ordinary play sand, which works fine for me. You could buy more of a fine or refined sand as well to mix with your seeds, especially if you've got some smaller seeds. So you take this sand and you will mix it in the bowl with just a teeny little bit of water just to dampen the sand, and then you add your seeds to that. Another option that you can do are coffee filters. So here's one that I've already dampened. This is a non-bleached number 4 size coffee filter, which I think works pretty well for me. Again, you want to just dampen it a little bit before you put your seeds in there. And what I like about this is it's kind of its automatic little pocket, so the seeds can stay inside that pocket. The next 2 things you're going to need are a Ziploc bag and a permanent marker like a Sharpie. The Ziploc bag is what you put your seed and the seed mixture or the seed within the coffee filters into. Then you can seal it for the winter and then store it. You're going to need this Sharpie, which is essential because you really, really, really have to remember to label your seeds. I'm notorious for forgetting what I picked and planted from the season before, and I have made the mistake of putting seeds in here thinking, oh, I'm going to remember what it is in the spring, and then I totally forget. The last thing you're going to need is something to put all of your seed packets in. So I have a shoebox, which works great. You can use just about any kind of container as long as you have access to it and you can easily check your seeds from time to time. You want to make sure to check those seeds every once in a while just to make sure they're not prematurely sprouting or getting mold in them, in which case you may have to redo that process. So you're going to take the seeds that you picked and you're going to mix them either with your sand substrate that's been dampened just a little bit, not sopping wet so that you see dripping water. You don't want them to be swimming in water, just a little bit damp to keep them slightly moist while you're stratifying them. Once I put it into my Ziploc bag, I've got a smaller Ziploc bag. This size works pretty well. This is just a sandwich Ziploc for me, and this seems to be enough for one single kind of seed. Now, if you're using coffee filters, for instance, and you've got your seeds ready to go in the coffee filter, you can just fold the coffee filter and put it in your Ziploc bag like this, seal it, label it, and you're ready to go. So once I have those all packed up and ready to go, I can put them in my shoebox, and then I can store them in a place that's cool or cold. You don't actually want to store them in your freezer, which may seem kind of contradictory, thinking that, well, seeds would be outside in the winter when it's freezing, but actually your seeds can get freezer burned in your freezer in your house. If you want to keep them in the fridge, keep them on the bottom shelf towards the back. Alternatively, if you've got an unheated garage or an outdoor like shed space that's protected, that will work fine too. So by this spring, my perennial seeds and hopefully yours will be ready to plant in prepared pots and trays and maybe even directly into your garden. I hope this helps you so that you never have to play that guessing game again with your seeds. And if you're interested in some other garden tips, I have a whole playlist here.